All right, greetings, fellow adventurers. Welcome to the Third Company Gaming, and we are starting a new campaign called The Tale of Two Daughters. And this is the introductory session, and present are two of our PCs being played by Dave and Stuart. And they are respectively playing, Dave is playing Zearson of Armus, and Stuart is playing the enigmatic Hafen. And we will have them describe themselves later when you meet them. The story begins with Zearson having spent close to a year in time studying to be a mage in a school of magic known as Fivria, which is the Earth School of Magic. And he's been studying with the elves in a kingdom known as Bial. And both Zearson and Hafen belong to a company or to a group known as the Uthrium Roliri, which is a group of rangers that patrol all of the island of Harn, where this game takes place. Having finished his studies and not probably being able to travel safely back to where he comes from, up in the northern kingdom of Orbal, Stuart, playing Hafen, has journeyed south and is meeting with Zearson at an inn located along a major trade route called Trobridge Inn. And that is where our story will begin. Stuart, you have, Hafen, you have spent probably, looking at the distances involved, I mean, you're fleet of foot, but it has probably taken you a good 20 days, maybe more. Looking at the mileage here, it's probably taken you a good 20 or 30 days to make this trip down to Trobridge Inn. In making this journey, you would have passed through Caldor, which is a civilized area, and I know that your character, I know that Hafen does not usually enjoy civilization. How would you have handled your journey through Caldor?
The outskirts are fine by me. Tayshel is a little bit too large for my taste, so I think skirting Olakand, passing through the Calf Hills, and then joining the road, Salt Road, I believe, all the way to the outpost end of Trowbridge would be my
All right.
preferred route.
Obviously, we've come down the Fur Road, and
Yes,
I see what you would have done. Sure. So you would have forded the river
somewhere around
well
there.
north of Tashel, and then cut through the Catholic Hills. How well do you get along with the Cath? The Cath are a barbarian tribe that can be a little ornery around interlopers.
I've had a few minor run-ins with them, but I've not had any problems. If they, as long as I don't look like I'm from Tayshel or Caldor, they see me as a woodsman, and I have a Teldin bow that stands out quite a bit, as a unique thing they'd recognize from the northern tribe, who they're not direct neighbors, but who are both a little bit weary of the civilized lands in that kingdom. So I think I build a rapport based off of that obvious identity.
And you feel like you also, if you to a degree could skirt around them, avoid contact to a certain degree.
Right, me
They're
as an
very
individual, I can avoid a group relatively readily.
and they're especially protective of their hunting grounds. So that would be probably your main concern, is not be taking one of their wild pigs, which they treasure a great deal. All right,
And
excellent.
that's fine. Yes.
You arrive close to nightfall at Trobridge Inn, and I'm going to move us to the Trowbridge area map.
On the 15th of Peonu.
On the 15th of Peonu. Peonu is the middle spring month, and Harn, the climate is quite. It can be somewhat maritime, probably most akin to Scotland or England. in how it feels. It doesn't snow terribly much, but it is damp and is cold. And this time of year, you're going to find that the weather is quite unpredictable. Coming in today on the 15th, it is in the evening time. It is relatively warm, probably in the 60s as the sun's beginning to set, with on and off rain. Nothing that you can't handle, but and by Harnick standards, really quite pleasant weather.
Yeah, that's a nice fresh time.
Yes, that's really quite nice out in Harn. And you're coming in on the southern edge of this map.
Oh, excellent.
What's that?
That's great. I'd rather avoid the manor if I could and go straight
Yeah.
to the inn.
I believe you come in through this way. Let's check on that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the salt route is coming in along the it is coming along the southeastern side of town. So the main caravan route, known as the salt route, comes in here. It crosses at the ford and then continues out to the north and then to the west, primarily to the west. And the sun is close to setting, and looking up ahead, you see Trobridge itself. And Trobridge, you've gone through about 10 days of traveling through basically wilderness, probably a bit more since you crossed near Olakand into the wilderness and avoided almost all civilization. So you've probably been on the road in just a pure wilderness setting for probably about 15 days. And this is about the first houses, buildings, structures that you've seen in that amount of time, which doesn't bother you at all. But Trobridge is the size and the feel of most manorial villages that you'd find on Harn in any of the kingdoms, pretty much. But the one thing that makes it different than most villages, which are primarily serfs and peasants that are farming the fields, it is this island of semi-civilization, this rural agrarian culture in the midst of an immense wilderness along the southern salt route area that goes across the lower portion of the island of Harn, the southern portion. But what makes it unusual, other than its location in the midst of the forest, is that there is an immense fortified inn in the center of town. And that is, of course, the famous Trobridge Inn, which is where you're headed now, to meet with the mage in training, Zirson. And as you approach, you see the inn, which is a huge structure, but even behind the inn, rising even taller, there's a tower of an ancient tower, some 600 years old, that lies on the Farron River, and you see it just over the shoulder of the inn, slightly to the west near the river, and that's over there. I need to get something brighter to ping with. Marcus, I'll go with a red as well. So that tower is right there. You cross along the fields, sun beginning to set, and I'll move you to right here. You arrive. You go across the palisade, the pair of ditches that protect the inn, and is very well fortified. And there is a night watchman there, one of the guards, and he is just beginning to button the place up for the night. And he gives you a sidelong look as you walk up, looking somewhat irritated that you've arrived just as he was getting ready to close the inn up for the night. And he says,
"Pardon me, sir. Pardon me. I'll just slip right in. It's not dusk yet."
Well, I mean, he turns and he looks to the west. He says, "I don't see any sun here right now. Where are you coming from?"
Oh, quite far. by way of Caldor, though.
All right. What, you're traveling west this time of year?
No, I'm traveling to here. I'm meeting a friend. He's coming from the south.
Gives you this weird look when you say from the south, as if he can't conceive of anything being down there other than more woods. He gives a slight shrug. All right. Close enough. Go on in. The inn is ahead of you, and the main entrance that he sort of directs you to when he says "on in" is a little over to the right, where that second torch is to the right. As you get closer, you hear some sounds from within, some conversation, some music, but the door is shut. Did I leave the door shut? Yeah, the door's shut. You open it as you draw close, and within you see a cheery. I could take it so that we're not bound to the map. Give me a second. I'm going to take the grid off. Okay. Go ahead. You see a large fireplace. I'm sorry?
Brace myself for the smell of many people packed into one spot.
Even though you have not reached peak caravan season, the inn is quite busy. Most of the people look like they're more like locals. Ahead of you is a very large fire pit. You feel the warmth from here, even though it wasn't that chill in the evening. You could feel it beginning to get cool as you walked up to it. And there's a good crowd within the inn. They're talking, making conversation. Some travelers, some locals. A pretty good mix of folk in the inn.
Yeah, I'll take my time, come in slowly, and just keep my eye out for oak leaves decorating someone's cloak.
If you want to go explain what you look like and those oak leaves that you just described.
Sure. Halfin is a very small, 5-foot, slender man, and is middle-aged, but very weathered and worn from a time in the wilderness. He's got leather and fur trim clothes, boiled kerbal armor in some spots, carrying a staff that has some kind of decorated totem on it, akin to some kind of tribal fetish, I suppose, but also carrying bow and quiver, and doesn't look of tribal heritage, but does indeed look like he's been in the wilderness for many years, and but it's all of his gear is well kept, well produced, and pretty apt for what it's meant to be, and other than that, pretty tidy.
All right, and you mentioned oak leaves. What is the import of that?
Yes. The Uthrim Rolieri use oak leaves as a symbol to identify each other and identify themselves, arranged in a loop or a circle or at least 3 with an acorn, often. So it's our little note to each other so that we can find each other.
And how are you wearing yours? Often it's either a brooch or a pendant or something along those lines.
Yeah, they're pretty big leaves, and I'm a little guy. I have to loop them kind of over my shoulder in a 5-leaf wreath kind of a thing.
Are you actually using actual oak leaves or using bronze ones or?
I like to use actual ones.
All right,
kind of literal.
All right. Some brothers, because the Uthrim literally means the brothers of the forest. In Sindarin, some will use them in make a bronze brooch out of they'll make out of bronze and make stylized ones.
Right.
So
I probably have a set somewhere.
as you come in, you look around. You don't recognize anyone in particular. The last time you were here was probably 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Probably getting towards late fall, winter of 717. It's now mid-spring of 720. But one person does catch your eye, and he's right here, and he's the innkeeper. known as Turlin, and you remember him from some time ago. And most importantly, you know that he is one of those individuals who, while certainly not a member of the Utham is not ignorant of who you are and what you do. So he is a friendly or an aide or a friend to the Brotherhood. So he understands your import to a limited degree. And a person in his position, as an innkeeper in essentially surrounded by wilderness, can appreciate that somebody who guards the wilderness, who keeps travelers safe to some degree, is somebody that's probably worth knowing and looking out for. So as you walk in, he looks up briefly and he nods in your direction.
I'll give him a wave, then make my way, over to here.
Sure.
Good evening, cousin Tolrin.
Hafen, it's been
Turlin. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Been a few years, hasn't it?
It has. I've been north.
Things.
I'd visit more often if I could.
I understand. It's we're not exactly on the way to any place, except if you're going from Tashel to Coronan, which I don't think you have much call to do.
Puts me in a funny spot. I'm supposed to be somewhere not between those two places.
So things have changed a bit since you've been here. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't say for the better. All right, you may remember it wasn't as big a problem, but you know that. Well, there's the old man who styled himself the Lord of Trobridge.
Mm-hmm. In the manor house.
Right, it was the manor house. Has this group of rogues there. Well, he kind of looks around, make sure none of those men are here. You can kind of sense that in him. Well, the old man died. Well, died's the wrong word. That Cath bride he took let his guard down one night, and she slipped a dagger between his ribs. That's what they say.
Oh.
I mean, obviously I wasn't there for it. Which, well, at first we thought it would be an improvement, but his son took over. Half Cath boy. He's in his early 20s now, and he's trying to prove something now. He's a lot worse. Kursan's his name. Lords around, parades around, tries to pretend he's a knight. He's got even more brigands and ruffians. Anyway, I'm boring you with these details. My apologies. Just be careful on the north side of town is what I'm trying to tell you. You're up there alone. I'm not sure where you're headed, my friend, but they may try to shake you down is what I'm trying to say. I swear I don't know why the mercantilers don't just gather up a company. They pay way more in taxes and tolls that these brigands demand than they could to just hire a company and clear them out. Anyway. So what brings you here?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for the warning. No, I'm actually looking for a friend that I've not yet met. Young man named Zerson.
Zerson. Would he be
one
dressed?
Of the Brotherhood cousin.
He'd be dressed like you then, a bit.
Probably not quite like me. He's newer.
Right. Well, he kind of looks around. Pretty much regulars here. I mean, I got these two caravan guards behind me. They got an early start. What's the date? What's the date today, Hafen? If you can even keep trucking in the woods, I'm not sure if you can.
Oh no, it's the 15th of Pionu for sure.
Oh, right. You know what? They should be leaving Corona now. The caravan, I mean.
Right.
They'll be about now next month. Middle of Kelm, they should be here.
Yeah, I don't mind waiting. I'll wait with an ale though.
Absolutely. He looks and says, room 2's available. And he gives you kind of a wink. And what you know he means by that is that somebody like him, an innkeeper that understands the importance of the Utham Valeri, in a place like this especially, will often just leave a room available to traveling brothers. So he kind of looks over his shoulder to this door right here.
Okay.
But there's 2 beds in there, but nobody's checked in. But here, let me get you that ale.
Sure.
He calls
sure.
the barmaids, and she scurries off. And do you have your own cup, or do we need to? They need to bring you one?
I'm sorry, my own what?
Your own cup. Do you have your own
Uh,
flagon or cup, or do they need to bring you one?
no, I probably just have a skin, so a cup would be
Okay.
appreciated.
It just takes a few moments before one of the barmaids comes by and throws a flagon in front of you. And you're there nursing that for a little while. Perhaps well past sunset at this point. And I'm sure you're probably somewhat concerned whether he managed to get past the guards. But somehow he did. And to activate young Zearson here. And through the northern door, a young man wearing, basically within your visual sight, I'm sure, a young man comes through that door, and you recognize, even on sight, the kind of muted greens, and you also note that he has a sash tied around his arm that's blue, which is another common symbol of the Brotherhood, is the blue sash, or a random blue garment that is worn. So Zearson, are you live?
I am.
All right. You walk into the room. There's a guard in front of you, and there is a priest of some sort who's trying to preach to these two mercenaries that are ignoring him. The priest is a young man, probably about 20, between 20 and 25. It's hard to say. His back is to you. He has his head shaved in a tonsure. And based on his raiment, he looks like a priest of Peony, which is a goddess of agriculture and healing and generally kind of good stuff. And he's kind of blocking the way for you to fully enter the room. So, Dave, we are on you, Zearson.
Well, me being me, relatively new to the world, very inexperienced, poor. Although the sash and probably my cloak are relatively new, the rest of my attire would be very old, barely fitting, old, worn, and just not quite dilapidated, but definitely could be replaced. Rather shyly would attempt to squeeze past without interrupting anybody to get into the greater room, looking toward the guard to see if I, owe anything or need to give anything.
Looking at the guard, he's not quite as, we are bound by what tokens can present. He's not quite as on guard as that fellow is. He's standing there, spear up in the air, kind of just leaned against the wall. Down by his foot, you see there's a mug of ale, and occasionally when when it's not very crowded, nobody's looking, he kind of bends over there and takes a sip and puts it back down. The priest in front of you is going on about trying to get them to leave their violent ways and seek solace and the protection of the bosom of Peony and not lead a life of violence. He's otherwise kind of blocking your way in, but not only because of ignorance, not because of intention, because his back is to you.
Then I would politely say, "Excuse me, sir, trying to get by." And also take a look around the room to see what everybody else is up to. You mentioned that he was talking to the two mercenary types, but there are other in the room, correct? I can see some regular patrons, it looks like.
Yeah, there's some regular patrons, some look like locals, and you could tell because they don't have as much stuff on them. They don't have, they're not carrying, they don't have pouches, and they don't have cloaks. They don't have as much stuff that they're carrying. Those look like travelers. Some have already decided to crash for the night, and are in the corner. both of you at this point can make me an awareness check to see what you're at. Give me a -10 on that because the room is kind of smoky and it's loud and there's lots of people in the way. So you've kind of moved up and are trying to get past that guy. Okay. At around that time, you both basically just make eye contact with each other. And you see across the room somebody that you recognize is probably a brother with a marginal success. That's probably the right kind of guy. And you see Zierson across the room, a very small man sitting at the table nursing an ale, and he's dressed in traveling leathers, a cloak. He has at his side was probably across his back a bow which is wrapped in a piece of woolen cloth to protect it, and he has a large, kind of looks like a staff. You're not really sure. It looks kind of tribal. And of course, Hafen, you look across the room and see, as Zierson described himself, a youngish man, probably in his mid-20s, looking a little bedraggled. His cloak is probably his best piece of clothing that he wears, and it's held in place at his breast with a brooch of oak leaves and acorns.
Yeah, I'll nod and tug on my own little oak leaf wreath.
Okay.
Towards it.
And in his case, it's actual oak leaves. Like he could have worn them as hair if he chose to, but instead he has them kind of draped, almost like a mantle across his shoulders.
Yeah, mine would definitely be bronze, metallic for sure.
He turns around and steps back. Oh, that's you, not him. The priest steps back and gives a little bow of, "Oh, pardon me, my friend. Please make your way in." And Peony would smile upon you if you were to have purchased a beer for the benefit of her poor impoverished clergy.
Look down. Apologize. I have very little money myself. I am amongst the poor. I would love to buy you, but unfortunately, it's outside my means today.
He smiles, gives that look as if he hears that probably several times a day, and returns back to the mercenaries that he's beginning to chat up.
In this case, it's quite true. I would make my way to the bar then at that point to try and get a cheap drink and some cheap food.
Yeah, I'll turn to the lady next to me and ask, "Young miss, would you scoot down a seat? My friend is here. My brotherhood, in fact."
She gives you a look and a shrug, and we'll scoot down a little bit. There's not a bar as such. There are serving. There are women who are serving in the room as well as men. Turlman is serving drinks. They seem to be going back and forth between a back room over here, which must be where they store most of their ale and bring it out. So it's not a conventional bar.
Gotcha. In that case, I'll take a note of his clearing of a seat and move over toward him, assuming he is in fact who I'm looking for, considering the accoutrement.
It looks that way. So head on over there, making your way, past various people.
Yep. Apologize. Excuse me. Pardon me. Excuse me. Maybe I went the wrong way. I'll come back around.
Yeah, the way this place is laid out, it looks like they try to leave the center area for service, and everybody sits along the outer edges. That's a pretty common way that most great halls are going to do their service. And Hafen, maybe it even saddens you a little bit, but when Zierson comes up, he has kind of the light of Evial in his eyes. It will probably fade in time, but his time amongst the elves has put sort of a shine in his eyes that you can almost see right now. It was probably difficult for you to leave, Zierson. That year flew by for you, and you're immortal. For the elves, they explained to you that years go by much as as weeks or days goes by to mortal men. But it's
Considering my
important.
tutelage is probably the nicest year I've had in my entire life.
Evial was beautiful. It saw the same weather that the rest of Harn sees, but it seemed to affect it differently. Rather than it being dreary and foggy on most days, it was misty and cool. It had a different feel to it. Weather that was otherwise unpleasant in Evial was just different there for some reason, and it's hard to even explain. Your time there, and they explained to you, is very important that you stay there for a year, which is how long you were there, because to understand Fivria, the magic of the earth, you had to be there for a full year to see the entire cycle of life, as much as it could be learned by a mortal in a year's time. They would say that to really understand Fivria, you would probably need a good 70 or 80 years to see men and animals and beasts grow up and grow old and die, and their young take over, and they grow up and grow old and die. And you had to keep explaining to them that you just don't have that much time. But they do. And here you are. So Zirson, you sit down next to Hafen, and here you two are.
Yeah. I'll put out a hand to shake and ask finally, Zirson?
Yes. And you are, I say questioning
yes.
to not give away too much.
I go by Hafen.
Ah, good. Happen. Pleasure to meet you. Hope you weren't waiting too long for me.
No, you're surprisingly punctual for someone in Aval. For coming from Aval.
I've spent a lot of my time walking.
Yeah, it was the boundary between Evial and the forests that are near Trobridge, and it isn't very far away, was not marked in any fashion, and not in a conventional fashion, but the woods just changed. And you knew, because they've told you, that they are well patrolled, and that if a person who is not welcome in Evial strays into Evial, they are politely but firmly escorted back to the boundary and told to go about their business. You guys are in this conversation when Turlin comes back. I'm sorry, I didn't. I don't mean to interrupt, but Hafen, it is. I just realized that there has been a letter that came ahead of you by about a week's time. That's been sitting here waiting with your name on it. I don't know how these things find their way there the right way, but do you want to take it now or do you want to take it later?
I'll take it now. You've thought of it. Thank you very much, Turlin. It's a surprise to be sure.
He pulls out a rolled up piece of parchment, and it is sealed with a wax seal with a ribbon upon it. And the seal, which I imagine, unless you're trying to hide it from Zirson, he can see it as well.
I mean, he's fine if he sees the seal. Yeah.
All right. So the seal looks like that. It is in wax, sealing the rolled up parchment shut. Do you want to see if you recognize it?
Yes. Other than I've got a 5 on heraldry, I believe, unless that's some other kind of symbol.
It definitely looks heraldic to you. I'll give you a +10 on it because of the possibility of having seen it before. Okay, so that's just the you don't even have heraldry as a skill at all. Okay.
No, not even.
All right.
Not even.
You look at that go. All right. You know what?
I'll show it to Zirson and just say, it must be one of those fancy wardens. Probably all the way from Eliath, right?
You understand what heraldry is, and that's probably important. But do you break it and open it?
No, not right away.
All right. So slip it into your.
Yeah, we'll talk to Zirson for a little bit. how was your trip? Was your studying successful? Do you feel it have all benefited you?
Definitely learned a lot, both culturally and of the the Earth, and like I don't want to say the magic because that's not accurate or something I want to broadcast loudly. But I learned a lot in my time, and I achieved my goals. The people there are outstanding, and I wish I could have spent more time. Um, he would probably ramble about various dinners and cultural events that he would have, been exposed to during the year. Getting very excited about them. You will probably glean from his general mannerisms, he is not well versed in hanging around people in general. You can tell he spent most of his time, with books and with chores, and not really around a man of the world, as it were.
Do
His
you have,
interactions with the bar staff and the people near him, it's just you can tell he's a little off.
so let me ask, as far as in 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 this game and in this setting,
Flash that movie.
well, there are no player characters. Yeah, you're frozen. We might all be frozen at this point. Um,
I'll refresh.
so you're not obviously a mage or a wizard.
Correct.
Do you? So once you tell us, one thing that a wizard or a mage would have is you might have what's called a focus, or some other way of helping you channel magic. Is there anything that you're wearing or carrying that's a little bit unusual that you can help everybody understand that you'd use as a mage?
A person in general, or something exposed that people could see.
It's up to you how you want to handle it. Some mages might have a staff. Others might have a pendant or that they hold on to as they cast a spell.
The pendant, I don't know what it would look like at the moment. I haven't done my full
sure
research
it's
on the
shiny.
Jamorvi. It is shiny and it is metal.
That that's a shiny piece of metal you got there.
But it would definitely be hidden at this point. Just like I wouldn't have my more just out and about. It'd be in my bag,
Sure.
secure.
That makes sense. All right.
But yeah, not to say that I would look like a class per se, but I wouldn't be very vocal about
We
being a
wouldn't
bishop
expect
bar.
in this game. We don't see that too much. So you can be a wizard that wears armor. It just might make it harder for you to cast spells. So there's no limitations of what you can do other than practical ones, training and how much you can handle at any time. But so I was just wondering if you had have you developed or tried to make a Fivrian focus yet?
No, he would not have done that yet.
All right, so that's something we can do in play at some point and try to craft yourself a Fivrian focus. All right.
I'll get the little sprout of ale if he's too timid to wave down a barmaid.
Yeah, he's been kind of like that.
Well, no, he's probably good with like the inn. Now that I think about it, being an innkeeper's son, but it's just he's not used to that interaction. So he would call somebody over, but he would just kind of like not exactly know how to order.
You were
properly.
going on about fancy of all dinners and other things. I had plenty of opportunity to get you.
All right. So you will spend the evening catching up, talking about your experiences in Evial. You have a room already reserved for you, and that's where we can go on to the next day, unless we have something you want to do.
Well, no. After we finish our ale and retire to the room, I do want to check out that letter.
All right, very good. And
Do it in the room though instead of.
Gotcha. There's a pair of
public.
pair of rough little beds there, but still relatively comfortable. I will put that in your journal, and you can be able to see that. that appear for you?
It did.
Good.
Jeez, the character. Okay. Oh. Well, that must be who this symbol is for. Written on Israel 15th. Right? First of Kelin. Uh-oh. We have time to get there.
15 days.
15 days. We should get hustling, young one.
He's still out the. He's still trying to float.
Oh, hey, this is our room, man.
I'd actually be interested in what the priest of Peony would be saying, and if he's having any actual effect on anybody other than bothering people.
What it really seems like he's trying to do is get drinks.
Ah.
I mean, I am not trying to denigrate his good work, but at this point in time, he's not preaching to the peasants that he normally does. He's hanging out in the bar.
I'll ask him. I believe he's a Raslava or some similar rank in a Peonian hierarchy. If he has rites in the morning that he needs to perform for the farmers, and shouldn't he be turning in?
He looks somewhat abashed about that, and he says, "You do raise a valid point. I will. It is getting late, and we do have sunrise services. So, good day to you all. Good evening to you all, then." And he, whereupon, leaves. You've not discussed the letter.
Oh, no, I will tell Zerson. We might be traveling a little bit quick. I'll just show it to him. I have an appointment apparently to keep on first. First of Kelin,
Which is 16 days from now.
right? And also I should let you know I plan to observe the full moon. Hardnick term.
Tonight, in fact.
I probably spit out a little bit of Elvish there tonight. I will lose a little bit of sleep for it, but if you're follower of the midnight, nope. Yeah,
Dave, you're You're a Siamist, sure, and he's been with. Yeah. Of course, he's been in Evial for a year, and that's right. The only religion he's been around would be Siam. Siam lived amongst the elves. I mean, it was 20,000 years ago, but who's counting other than the elves?
But you can tell.
You can tell, yeah. The memory is still fresh to them. And of course, both of you would have, as worshippers of Siam, you'd have a ceramic bowl of blue. You'd have the azure bowl, which is a meditative device, and most Siamist worship is very private and very quiet and very meditative. And the full moon is this is one of those nights. It is Peonu the 15th.
Yep. 15th. Yes, night of high perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We step out for an hour or so at midnight and
put water in the bowl, and you watch the moon with
meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. When he starts to like hint at what he's getting at, I would probably reach into my bag and expose the bowl to kind of show him, yes, I follow CM as well. And
good.
It sounds, quietly, because who knows what people around here do. But certainly.
And for our listeners, Siem is a god of nature, god of the elves, god of the dwarves to some degree, or different aspects of CM are worshipped by both, and often a god, very rarely followed by humans, but usually humans of the elder peoples. Zirson, you're a Jarin, am I correct? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry.
All right. And the Jarin are the first human peoples to be on Harn, and they arrived when the elves and the dwarves were still the dominant peoples on this island, and they started to follow CM as well. And many old Jarin families still do follow CM. Many do not at this point in time, but some do, and the Uthram Valeri certainly does. They are, in a sense, I don't want to say a militant because they have the Uthram Valeri has martial aspects, but they are in a sense a sect of the Church of CM. There's really no other way to look at it than that. But they are CMists at heart. They believe in the balance of nature. They believe in all things CM, good dreams, nature, wisdom. CM is known as an eminently wise god. So, and the new moon and the full moon are holy nights for the Church of CM. And on the Harnett calendar, the first of the month is the night of the full moon, or the new moon, excuse me, and the 15th is the full moon, which is where we are. So you guys eventually go out at around midnight and conduct that ceremony?
Probably
Yeah, I think I would like to be underneath the full moon if it's not going to cause too much trouble.
It won't cause a problem. You just step outside. If we wanted to do it, there is a roll to see whether you gain piety points for conducting the ceremony. Anybody have that handy?
I do have ritual for that. I'm not sure what the success needed is.
Just a standard success will have the ceremony be successful, and then there's a chance that you'll gain some piety points for it. If you will, I will pause and dig that up. I don't want to micromanage piety points too much, but I will. We'll do it for the sake of doing the mechanic of it. One moment.
Right, and I'm still at the base. We haven't veteraned out my piety points yet. The one thing.
If you go to Religion 4 in the religion book,
okay,
it will give you. They
give
have prayer, fasting, confession, daily mass, monthly low mass, high mass, feast mass,
this
temple
is monthly
services.
High mass.
Let's do monthly high mass for this one.
So that's 80%, which is 3 piety points.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll roll for Dave. Dave, did you roll a? All right. So, Hafen, you get 3 piety points, and Dave, did you make a ritual check for me, please?
No modifier?
I'm sorry?
No modifiers?
No modifiers. Look at that.
I rolled a 1.
Rolled a 1. And you also gain 3 piety points for observing the night of high perspective, I believe is what it was. All right. Anything else that you guys want to do with this evening?
That should be it.
No, it's late and I'm road worn, so I can use a good night's sleep. Don't really need to do any research.
I assume the inn had food available and we ate if we were.
Yeah. And you certainly get the impression that you didn't pay full fare. He accepted a few coins from you, but not too much. All right, and also you've been told, Zirson, that you're going to be traveling fast tomorrow, which probably thrills you to no end. So we will move on and make it to the next day. So the 16th of Pionu. Actually, you know what? Let's take a brief break for any reason? Or are we good? Anybody need a break?
I'm good.
Good for a little while longer.
Okay, fair enough.
Although honestly can't find where I'm recording my piety points on my character sheet.
It's on the character sheet page beneath your sun sign by your age and morality. I believe that's where you're supposed to mark it.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Although I didn't give myself any to start with. I didn't. We didn't do that before, so I didn't know what to put there.
Heathen mages always disrespecting the greater power.
I'll
No,
get,
you're fine.
we'll handle that between sessions as far as
Yeah.
how many points you guys have. Half is probably going to have a pretty good reservoir of them. All right, let me turn the. Let me turn it into daytime outside. The next morning, you are probably trying to get an early start, but there's some tumult out in the common room. Right as you're really beginning to get your things together, there's a man. You hear his voice. He's talking rather loudly, and you hear Turlin trying to calm him down somewhat. There's somebody outside who seems who's now in the common room of the inn who seems very upset, and Turlin is talking with him, trying to calm him down. There's probably a lot fewer people in here right now too. We'll pare it down somewhat. We'll move you guys there. People are beginning to get up, go about their ways. So a bit more quiet, except for this gentleman who is making a lot of noise and seems very upset. He's talking about where his kids have gone. Is his main thing. And Turlin sees you walk out and kind of gives you a look, like maybe he could use some help. Like he's not sure what to do. Why is this guy talking to me? This guy's still drunk at the table, by the way. He has not moved. He's still there.
Well, he earned what he got. I'll come up to Turlin and try to get a better sense of what is going on. I'm not butting in just yet, but I'm definitely getting close enough to hear everything and see everything and check this guy out.
He is dressed very well, especially for the kind of setting that you're in. Of particular note is he's wearing quite a sturdy, nice robe, kind of like a gentleman's robe, and a very nice cloak. He has a hat, all fur trimmed, and Turlin says, "This is Harepa. He's the clothier in town. Runs a very good operation, especially if you need a cloak. He's anyway. That's not why you're here. He says his young boys. How old are they, Harepa? They're 11. They didn't come home last night, and I thought they were staying with their brother. You know, he's the priest. But apparently he was here getting drunk all night. I thought they stayed the night at his hovel, and he said that they didn't, and I don't know where they are."
Yeah, I saw the priest. Do these two look like a family resemblance?
Oh, yeah. This is he's probably mid-50s or so, and so it's so a good 20-25 years younger than the young man who was there last night. I had to
step out and stop bothering people that are trying to sleep. I doubt your 11-year-olds are here drinking now. I'll take him, reach up to a shoulder, and kind of,
all right,
escort him out the north side.
All right, fair enough. Is that door open? I'll open that door. Oop, it's open. Zerson, are you tagging along, or what are you doing? He's gone.
I would kind of read the situation of, yeah, I should probably at least listen in on what's going on here.
All right.
I'd follow slowly behind.
So he looks at you like, who are you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Who are you?
Oh, Turlin and I go way back. He's a cousin of mine. And if
Oh.
you're disrupting his folks, but he knows you. You're part of his community. I'd like to help, if nothing more than just to help reason out where these boys have probably been. I mean, do they do this a lot? Do they run off and berries and fall asleep under the bushes or hide in the haystacks?
Yeah, I mean they're 11 and they're twins. I mean, and you know how that goes. They're both they're hitting that age. You know, they're out pretending to slay monsters and go about the woods, but they're usually not. They're usually back by now. They'll go to their brother's house and anyway, I mean I've shouted for them all morning and I've not heard from them. I saw them yesterday afternoon. They're mucking around by the river. I told them to stay away from the river because, well, you know, it's the river. And they're by the tower where Kursan's men stay. And I told them to stay away from that because, you know, Kursan's men, being as they're not around, are they? I mean, God, they're such. Anyway, told them to stay away from there, and they said they would. And I went back to dyeing some cloth, and I didn't see them. And they said they were going to go to their brother's house, and I kind of left it at that. It's you know, these things happen. And then this morning they did not show up. I went over there. They didn't show up there, and so I came here. And that's all I can say. And they're not here. Turlin says that they're not here. Because they come here sometimes and listen to the minstrels.
I believe Turlin, and you've not upset Turlin in any way recently, right? You didn't, you know.
No, of course not. No,
steal his pig or something.
No, of course not. Turlin's. Okay. I mean, tension between Turlin and Kursan, and I try to stay on Turlin's side. I do, I really do. But
well, that leads me to my next consideration is have you offended Kursan in some fashion?
He not to my knowledge. I begrudgingly paid him, rent, as he calls it, even though I own that land, and so that that I get protection. You understand what I'm saying, I think, right?
I do understand, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know that I can do anything about it, but I will take a look for your boys down by the river and see what I can.
I appreciate that. I hope you weren't trying to get on the road first thing, and I can make it. The young lad back there, he could use some new clothes. Maybe I can help him out a little bit. I mean, because look what he's wearing, really.
Yes, I think it'll be worth the time if he can get some decent garb that'll help later on. Thank you.
Looking down, poking a finger through a hole in my shirt.
Pure serendipity there, let me tell you. All right, so we'll...
Hierpa, it was, right? Hierpa. The office boys. All right.
What I'll do is I'm going to move I'll move a marker that you guys can control on this map. Just something that you can move around. All right. Controlled by all players. All right, so this blue triangle. Oh, you guys got it. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. You guys are here in the yard of Trobridge. That's going to represent where you guys are as you go around town.
Well, he said down by the river and at the tower. So I suppose we should start there.
Yeah, the town's just beginning to wake up. As you leave the inn, there are some travelers. The caravans are still, as I said earlier, a good month away from coming through, but they're smaller groups of travelers. Very few people are going to travel alone down the salt route. The Tolwyn, the Chelni, to some degree the Calf, even regular ruffians make that kind of journey too dangerous for small groups. It's even a danger as far as you're concerned. I mean, you are not without concerns as you travel these roads. So they're trying to group up and make a large enough group to dissuade casual ruffians and bandits. Anyway, they're beginning to pack up and get ready to get on the road, whether heading east or west. East towards east towards Tashel or west towards Coronan.
Sure.
So anyway, you guys are. It's a bit. The weather this morning is a bit. Still warm, cool in the morning, of course, but a little bit of mixed rain, much like it was yesterday. Doesn't seem. Sniffing the air and feeling the temperatures, it doesn't feel like it's going to change too much. Slightly warm for the season and on and off rain. The road is rutted with tracks and ruts from wagons, and at times you splash through it as you're walking down the lane. Pretty standard Harnick conditions. Around you, some low brush and some forest and trees here and there. And this building right here has the sign of a clothier in front of it. It has the symbol of the clothiers guild hanging from a post to indicate that it is the clothier. I have another map that we can go to, so give me one moment.
I think this one is fine for the moment, but yeah, he mentioned the tower, so I'll start scouting this area for pairs of footprints that are about the size of the 11-year-old and come in twin sets.
So here's the clothier right here. And of course the tower is up there. And from the distance you see, outside the tower, you see on the roof of the tower you see 2 toughs. And lounging by the door, which faces to the west, there is another kind of thuggish looking tough that is leaning against the door. I haven't really noticed you yet, but they're just kind of there hanging out. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It did not transfer your sight over. Can you guys see okay now?
Still see a black screen.
Yeah, I can see.
Sight. Dave, you should be able to see. Globe illumination's on.
Yeah, my token correct? I saw your ping, but I can't see.
Oh, you know what? I grabbed the wrong person. Okay, second. I grabbed the
clothier.
I grabbed the clothier. You're both dressed in green. Why did I do that to myself? Why would I have done that to myself? You were still hanging out inside. There we go. There we go. Success?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right. As I said, a trio of toughs. They've got kind of small round shields. Hanging from their belts are some spiked clubs, and they're dressed mainly in ring bernese. And bernese is like a short sleeve shirt that comes down to the waist, and it's leather with rings and metal, either riveted or sewn into it. It's middling armor, and they don't seem to have paid you much heed or noticed you at this point in time, but they're over there, and just beyond the tower is the remnants of the original Trobridge, the bridge that crossed the Farron River. It washed out, I think it was about 5 years ago. People now have to cross via the ford a little bit to the east of here. But this old tower is still there. It's been around probably, they say, from the times of Lothram. A good 600 years it was built. It's still relatively good shape. unlike the bridge. So, you were looking for tracks, you said?
Indeed.
And you're pretty good at that. But it's, at least where you are right now, there's not much in the way of tracks that you can see that look like they were made by a pair of children. The conditions are pretty rutted through here. It looks like there's a lot of traffic. It might be hard to pick out a pair of footprints. It's probably been rained on as well. So you got a lot working against you as far as that goes.
Well, I don't have any problem approaching the tower and yelling out that, hey, have you seen Herpa's twins? Have you seen those boys? And continue walking as I converse at a distance.
All right. Well, show me where you're going and how close you're getting. Like about that far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And how do you? This one, they do have taken notice of you. This one was leaning against the wall, and he kind of sort of unleans from the wall and kind of swivels steps to kind of occupy a bit of lane. Puts his chest out. You haven't said anything yet, but he's made notice of you and is trying to kind of puff up a little bit. Were you going to say anything?
Oh, sorry. I thought I said, but maybe I'll repeat it, that I've been having my mute button on and off. We're looking for, the Herpa boys. Have you seen the two twins around here?
Bugger off, little man.
Have you seen anything around here? I know it's not as big as a caravan, but certainly you can notice, little scamps scampering around.
Seems super friendly, to put it mildly. Are you going to try to charm them in some fashion with your presentation and witticisms? If you can make a roll, like a rhetoric or something like that, to kind of see if you, because they seem pretty surly and unhelpful. But you're trying to appeal to their what little good nature they have in them about children that have been lost. They might be.
You were little troublemakers at some point. Yeah, I'm sure of it.
No, you haven't even grown out of it yet.
Right. I'm sure that somebody looked out for you at some point.
There's a mother out there somewhere who loves you. Oh, yeah, they are completely, yeah. I believe his phrase was "bugger off, little man," and oh, Dave has disappeared. Dave, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Mine was locked up. There we go.
Okay, I got you. I don't know if Marcus is even seeing these on the recording end. I don't see anyone. It's not like we live here. We're just watching the road, watching the river. I don't see anybody. He looks up there. Hey!
All right.
Hey, do you see anybody? No. He didn't even look. He didn't wait for an answer. He just turns back. I didn't see anybody. We don't mind. We don't really want you messing around here.
Well, good sir, I'll let you get back to holding up the wall, like you were, and I will poke around the river to make sure the boys didn't hurt themselves or something.
All right. He bristles a bit at your insult. Even he got it. Are you making tracking rolls, or what are you trying to do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll do a track roll here. I was,
All
yeah.
right.
If they hurt themselves in the river, one of them would have come back. I don't think.
Unless one went if the other. The ford is to the east, but even the ford is about 3 or 4 feet deep. You don't like crossing it, by the way.
Right. No, it's not. It's an endeavor. It's not something you can do.
Yeah, it's a good 200 feet across. The Farron is not a narrow river.
No, but I want to start here at this beach and the old bridge, because they may have played here.
Okay.
And these, and behind the tower or something, and work my way towards the shore.
Are you starting here, or are you starting more by the bridge?
No, here.
All right, go ahead and ping it for me, please. So just hold down your left mouse button.
Yeah.
Oh, right there. All right. Now that is not easily failed by you, but it was failed. So again,
No kidding.
these guys are. He looks at you as you walk by, like gape-mouthed amazement. Like, I can't believe that little runt just walked by me, just like that. Just walk by me. In fact, he's saying that to himself. Just walk by, like he owns the place. Just walk.
I'll lean on my staff and look even smaller and frailer if I can.
Okay. Trying to diffuse it a little bit.
Well, make it more unbelievable, actually.
Just walked on by, said all those things, walked on by like I never said them. Talking to himself like that. All right, look around here. This is kind of where they're describing. I think they said the old bridge by the river.
Not being particularly useful, I do walk by also anyway, just to see if I can't. But I kind of give him a wide berth. Show a little respect as I go by.
All right, that's more like it.
Kind of like.
I mean, I don't want to.
Got to go to that guy over there.
Looks at you like up and down, sidelong. These other guys are now like leaning over the tower, watching you.
As Zarson gets close to me, I'll whisper, "Keep an eye on those jerks."
So you find what looks like maybe the remnants of a picnic lunch. Like you find some apple cores that look like they're not too old. And looking around, it looks like you see some more food that's been discarded that way, and as well as you find a apple cores, a crust of bread, and other stuff looks like it's been there for very long. It's not moldy. It's not too browned. It's not rotting. It looks like
chipmunks haven't made off with it yet.
Chipmunks haven't made off with it yet. There's a real danger around here. And you see some tracks. You didn't really roll that well. If you go in this area, you got some things to work with there. Maybe make another roll for me again. Let's just see what you get.
First I'll do a circumnavigate the spot where I see it to get a good look and see if there's any tracks coming in or out before I go in and potentially trample my
good technique. And someplace under trees or brush might preserve the tracks better if it's been raining as well.
Yeah. There was something in that ale, man.
There is. It's lasted all night.
My only thinking from how I could help in this situation would be looking around for like what do they call that, an attractive nuisance, or something that would have drawn the kids' attention, or any anything I might know, because this is a relatively famous town, of somewhere the kids may have known to go off and play off to, like something that is nearby, like a ghost story or something they may have attempted to go investigate.
Well, you don't know much. Are you going to try to ask about that? Because you don't really know much about here. I don't think. The bridge is obviously something that kids would play around. It's pretty cool looking. Masonry. It's crumbled into the river. There's blocks of stone. It definitely would qualify for that attractive nuisance kind of term. That's a very legal term, by the way, Dave. I like that. I mean,
probably go pretend I was a child in my head and go look around and see where what they might have been gotten into.
Okay, make sure they didn't fall down to the masonry or caught down there, or God forbid one of them landed and hurt themselves down there. You can make an awareness check to see if you see anything like that. Actually, awareness checks I should probably do secretly. We'll discuss secret rolls in the future. Decide how often we want to do that. But make an awareness check. You're looking around, and that's what awareness is for. If there was something there, you would have found it. But from this vantage point, where you are here, looking, kind of getting out towards the tip here, you see in the distance where this trail goes, there's a little cabin about a half a mile further upstream from there. So where you are, you're at the tip of this little bridge, and you're looking around and looking downstream. You see this trail goes off through the woods and leads to, you can see just the little peaked roof and the tall chimney of some kind of a cabin about a third of a mile away, a half a mile away from where you are right now.
I'll reason if I could see it, the kids could see it, and I'll go over to Hafen and say, well, maybe they made the way up to the cabin over there.
Also, do keep track of skill checks that you've made, failed, etc., for checking those things later for me, please. Just kind of keep track of what you've done. So Hafen would go ahead. You got potential tracking skill advance. Zerson, I'll say that your awareness may have a chance of going up when we're done with the session. Okay, guys.
Got it.
Okay.
Sure.
So Zerson comes walking up to you, Hafen, as you're kind of disappointed yourself that you just can't seem to find anything.
Yeah, I'm stymied and a little bit ruffled on this at this one. That's smarted by 11-year-olds.
Zerson looks very well. Zerson, we're on you.
Not that dissimilar from Gargan sizes, and I still can't track the damn things.
Hafen, I was up on the bridge and I was looking out I think it's to the west, up the trail. There appears to be a cabin out that way, maybe a half mile or so. If I could see it, the kids could probably see it. I could see maybe meandering up the river that way and playing as a kid. I see there's some apple cores and so forth. Maybe they had a snack and went to go play.
Yeah. Well, sure. Imagined. Right. I gotcha there. Let's head that way and check it out. Maybe I'll see some prints along the way to make sure.
All right. You can get on the trail and make a track roll. Again, trying to maybe get places where the trees have leaned over the trail the most to try to make sure the rain hasn't washed any tracks away, because it has been raining off and on, which is pretty bad for tracking. But if it's been somewhat protected by the rain, the tracks will fill with water. They may not hold their shape very well, but at least you'll be able to see them. And sure enough, you see a pair of tracks that appear to be from a smaller person beneath this tree right here. The lane is not very well used. Certainly not as dug into the ground as these other lanes are. And you see some tracks underneath this tree where it's been sheltered by the rain, where it's been sheltered from the rain somewhat on the ground. And it looks like they were going that direction. That they had gone, whoever it was, had gone to the west, at least some distance.
Right. Well, we'll proceed to the west, following the. I'll point check on the trail, but assume they followed the road, and unless there's berry bushes or other positive nuisances.
Positive
might distract them. It's gonna be a thing. We'll try to get to that cottage pretty quick.
All right,
especially if it's made of gingerbread.
You hasten down the trail, and even walking will take you just 10 minutes. If you hoof it a little bit, we're talking like 5. And let me capture your little persons. Do take a second to load. And you hasten down the trail, and the river is not on the map, but it's just a little bit to the north of you. And the trail kind of breaks away from the river, and then there's a decent-sized cottage that you can see through the trees. Although the first thing that you see in the trail in front of you is a large stone, and the stone has a rune or an etching on it. I'll show it to you what it looks like. It looks like that, and with a smaller little ring of stones in front of it, which there's a few coins here and there that are inside that little ring of stones in front of that larger standing stone that has what appears to be a snake carved into the front of it.
Do I recognize this as any religion or?
Dave, I'm not sure how many lore skills I've given, but I figure you probably have some learning in this. Once you give yourself just the skill, and we'll figure out the skill base and all that later. But lore, religion, and give yourself like a 35 in that or a 40. And this is just knowledge of other religions.
I mean, is it a substantial enough, prominent enough snake to be an Ilvir?
Yeah, you would recognize it as probably an Ilviran symbol.
Yeah, that's not good.
Hell, but up in Jara, up in Orbal, I mean, all the Jaran worship Ilvir. It causes you some consternation, perhaps, but because you wish they'd follow the old ways of CM, but they all follow Ilvir now. Especially God, you're from Dave, jeez, and Lariel, they have this big ceremony every year where they bang a bunch of drums and pots and pans and make a bunch of noise. It's a big deal.
A little more mischievous down on this end of things.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
No, that's a fair point, Ilvir. Hopefully there's, well, maybe your jarring good looks will help us out here, Zarson.
If I didn't know anything about it, I would definitely ask. So, what is this all about?
Zirson, you're from Lariel, like right. As a kid, you were raised in Lariel.
Right. It's a common enough religion. I'm just worried that up north and other places, it's a common enough Jaran religion and tribal thing, but here in Trobridge, it's a little out of place, and I'm just worried somebody is a little more, taking a more radical or controversial form of Ilvirianism, or attracting Ivashu here, and maybe up to something with them.
Dave, you, as I was saying, from Lariel, you certainly recognize the common symbols of Ilvir, and the snake, especially the Ouroboros, but the snake in general is a very common symbol of Ilvir. Yeah, it's a ring of standing stones. That looks actually a bit more Siamese than it does Ilviran.
Sure.
It's a little odd thing there.
We'll have to remember it's here for next time I spend a high mass in Trobridge.
It's tranquil in there. Yeah, it seems inviting to you.
I'm not going to go in between the stones, but I am going to check out the circle. Especially in small hidden, small little hidey holes where something mischievous could. I guess I don't know if that's a track, more as an awareness check, but
you're
something.
Okay, you can what'd you make your?
I guess I'm almost looking for like if there maybe is a fairy or something, some other kind of creature that might be.
Okay. Do you have any spells that go towards the Asiri or El Mithri or any of the Harnic fairies?
Beast Friend or Nature's Aid might actually apply to nature spirits. check.
Okay. If you could look that up for me and tell me what that does.
I've got it ready. Relatively quick. At least the Tielda version. No, that's just animals. The CMist version, I thought mentioned other things too.
So you're very specifically kind of looking for fairy folk, and you've dealt with them before. And
yeah, but I mean, a dryad might pull this off too, although the Levens are really young for them. But maybe just to play for an afternoon.
As you're looking around, it almost looks like a leaf falling, but instead it is at wing. It is a small flittering creature, and it buzzes near you, and it pauses.
How do you do?
It reaches sort of the edge of the stones, and it talks. And when it speaks in probably a version of a mixture of languages, a little Jaran, a little Sindar, a little Harnic. Its words go back and forth between languages, some that you don't recognize, without pause or thought. It seems to think that it almost is as if its words to it are completely interchangeable, and so it's a little hard to follow along. Although when it speaks, it sounds like bells ringing in this little tinny voice. But it says, "Woodman, you look like you need help."
I'll just. Well, I guess I'll stick to Harnick. I don't know Sindar that well. Yes, and yes, we're searching for a pair of boys, twins, that are missing to their parents.
She looks, she, hard to tell. You're not even sure if they have genders, whether it's even a thing that's of concern to them. He says, that's tragic. Children always getting into such trouble. If you tell me a joke that I've never heard, I will tell you what you want to hear.
Is it just what I want to hear, or is it something that's true?
I will tell you what you seek.
Okay. Zierson, know any good jokes?
Step up, more fascinated at what he's talking to than anything at the moment.
It looks like a small. It's tiny. It is about. I gotta get my camera down. It is like yay tall and winged, like with dragonfly wings. It is a fairy. It's an ethereal. It's a sprite. Any of these words can apply to the little creature that you're speaking to right now. It's hovering there, and it's, as I said, it's like bells when it speaks. I can't do that with my voice, so you just have to imagine it. So, Hafen asked you,
Know any good jokes?
know any good jokes? Remember, family show.
Trust me, the first 3 or 4 jokes that came to mind were not appropriate for this setting. I can't think of any actual jokes off the top of my head that are appropriate. But I could think back to my time as an innkeeper, so I'm sure I've been around a lot of jovial people. Could I remember an obscure joke that I might have been, or well, I don't know what this would be obscure to the Fae, or Sprite, but something I could think of that he's maybe not heard this one before, something from my youth.
All right, so if either of you cannot...
No, I got one.
You got one, all right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yesterday,
She looks very.
the
She hovers like Tinkerbell and puts her head on her fists, or he does as she hovers. He hovers in space as you begin to recite.
when I last passed through Tashel, the king's fool held the door for me. It was such a nice gesture.
She.
You killed
I
it.
laughed.
It's dead.
I'm old.
Out with the dad jokes. All right, we got four dads here, so the dad jokes are coming out. And so she does a little backflip and gives a little laugh. And says, "Well, I did say one that I'd not heard. I did not say one that was good, did I?"
Well, if I think of a better one, I'll come back.
No, she says, "I said yes. You."
I will still come back if I think of a good one.
Well,
But yes, what can you tell us about the boys?
She points to that kind of ominous-looking hole in the ground over there.
I was afraid that was a hole.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up too soon.
I accidentally hit backspace, and that did not help me at all.
You're gone.
I'm gone. Launch game. Sorry, I hit a button.
Yeah, there's a button on my mouse that does that. I have to
Yeah, the side
rebind
button
it.
does that.
Yeah.
Right.
Every once in a while, I'll accidentally trigger it.
So, well, I tried to warn them, but they didn't see me or hear me. Not most people can't. Woodman, you can. I expected it. I shouted and told them not to, but they. There's a rope, you see. You can see it tied at the side of there. There's a stake driven deep into the ground. There's a ladder coming from it, and they went down yesterday. Later in the day, they never came out. I have worried about them all night. Because Sigurda, she means well. Sigurda does. She's wise. She is good with potions and herbs, but she keeps something down there. Something that she was keeping almost like a pet, but it got too big. And she's afraid of it.
And Sigurda lives in this cottage?
Yes, she's not aware of the boys. She went out this morning to look for herbs and has not returned. She doesn't see me very often or very well. Her eyes are not like that anymore. It's sad.
Okay. Well, thank you, little one, very much for keeping an eye on the boys and helping us out. We'll be back, hopefully.
Be careful of Sigurda's thing. It started small, but it has gotten big.
How big?
I can only guess since I can't see it. Bigger than a man.
Yeah. Hey, some men are bigger than others.
She does her little backflip again.
All right. Well, I'll go inspect the ropes and the stake and the ladder, I guess, and make sure it's sturdy enough for Sarson, anyway.
So you there is a sizable stake that's driven into the ground here, and as she said, there's a rope ladder. It starts as a rope, but once it hits the edge, it widens out with some rungs on it, and it goes down. It's not the worst thing you climbed in the world. Not the best thing you've climbed either. It'd probably be a little unsteady. And looking down, you hear water, and you can look down into it somewhat. There's a chamber underneath, some distance down. It's like a sinkhole, It looks like this has collapsed at some point not too long ago to reveal a cavern or a natural underground cave system that's beneath here. And you seem to recall one thing about the tower that you've heard at some point in the past. It just occurs to you now that the tower that those thugs are in is likewise known to have a trap door within it that goes down to a vast network of caves that runs up and down the Farron River. And that occurs to you just as you're looking down to this, like, oh, that's right. There is a big network of caves going all the way back to Lothrum's days. Looking down, you don't see the broken bodies of children, but you see under the rising sun, there's more and more light as each hour goes by. You can see decently into the cave and see that there's a river on the east side, and there's more caverns and exiting from there, going to the north and the south.
Look down the hole.
I'm going to get ready to climb down, but I'll say to you, maybe, I don't know if it'll hold us both, maybe check just to make sure the old lady's not in her cottage and she couldn't help us out here, or
do you guys have a light
source? Some torches?
That was going to be my question: is do you have a light source?
Yeah, and torches historically are not super duper common. They are the most common light source you're going to use is probably going to be a candle.
I do have Little Sun as a ritual.
Oh, you do? Good. Okay.
But I'm going
how long does that last?
Climb down first.
Okay. I'll tell you what. It is again a little past how long I intend to play. So let us, since we're getting ready to go down into a little spelunking here, I think it's not a bad point that we can stop. So Marcus, are you there too?
Yes.
All right. So we will take it up next time as you travel to the caverns beneath Securta's cabin.
All right, gentlemen. I hope you guys had a good time. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Marcus. I'm the co-GM, helping Devin with this adventure. I will be assisting him with set rules in case he has any questions or he wants to get them down pat of what they actually say. So I will be kind of in the background helping out with NPCs. But we thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this first little look at our adventure. Go ahead, Devin.
And with that, until next time, fellow adventurers.